I thought the penultimate episode of Yellowstone would be full of exciting, game-changing moments that set up a thrilling series finale, but I was wrong. The end is closer than ever for Taylor Sheridan's TV show, and the writer continues wasting time the show just doesn't have. Instead of progressing Yellowstone Season 5, Part Two's most intriguing conflicts and stories give the world away is full of unnecessary fluff that, at the end of the day, is forgettable. No one is going to look back on Yellowstone's penultimate hour and remember exactly what happened during the episode. Yellowstone Season 5 Episode 13 mostly revolves around the auction, which should be much more interesting than it is. Beth's desperate for money, and her solution is to sell everything they have. By the hour's end, the Duttons have raised a little over $30 million. It's enough to hold them over for a year, but after that, the future is unknown. Thankfully, Casey has a plan to save the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch sooner rather than later. That mysterious reveal is being held for the Yellowstone series finale, which makes sense because Episode 13 contains little to no excitement. Yellowstone's flagship Dutton saga is coming to a tragic end with just one episode remaining. The cast has been rocked by the deaths of Colby Mayfield and John Dutton. And with few options left, Season 5, Episode 13, Give the World Away, raises the possibility that perhaps doing just that will finally save the Dutton legacy. Here's a recap of the penultimate episode of the season, though before next week's finale. To begin, Beth and Rip get the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch ready for auction. Not the actual ranch, but an abundance of livestock, horses, and equipment that will essentially make the ranch worthless, albeit might save the land. After everything is sold, Rip and Beth debate over how to manage the ranch and whether they can even turn a profit in the future. Beth then inquires about Taylor Sheridan's character Travis Wheatley, who is down south selling some Dutton horses. Rip doesn't think Beth should go to Texas to supervise Travis because his friend isn't below trying to have sex with his friend's wife. However, Beth sells their horses anyhow since she doesn't think Travis will do it right. Thomas Rainwater and Mower Showman give the world away, keeping an eye on the oil pipeline's progressing construction. This scene is very similar to the opening of Season 5 Part 2. Desire is all you need. Rainwater complains, there's nothing I can do to stop it. Nothing legal anyway. According to Rainwater, persuading people to quit selling pipes is the greatest approach to fight. Ella Steele is given a warrant by Detective Dillard to investigate Sarah Ackwood's office for proof of foul play against John Dutton at Market Equities. Jamie watches a news program from his house stating that there is evidence that suggests Jamie might have profited from the land lease that John had terminated while he was governor. Jamie chastises Beth over the phone right away when she is traveling to Texas. You ruin yourself, you ruin me. You ruin the whole family, he says. Any legacy this family has earned is eradicated. Jamie admits to Beth that he is aware of all the Dutton family's secrets. Unfazed, Beth ends the call, but not before pointing out that, in contrast to Jamie, she fulfills her commitments. At the same time, Luke Grimes' character Casey returns after a trip to Texas. When asked what happened, Casey responds that he made it obvious that his family is off limits. If we walk away from this place, I don't want them following us, he says to her. When Monica asks if the goal is to leave, Casey responds that he has been attempting to do so all of his life. Teeter immediately withdraws to the bunkhouse while all of the ranch hands head back to the Dutton Ranch. Walker intervenes when Ryan tries to follow. Walker tells Teeter, hating that horse isn't going to help, adding that perhaps Colby is still practicing his passion, doing it forever. Fans may concur if they recall what happened to Elsa Dutton at the conclusion of the prequel series 1883. Just then, Lloyd offers Teeter Colby's old hat, which she soon dons herself, rejoining the rest of the cowboys. Outside, Ryan asks Rip about Colby's death. Though Rip explains how Colby saved Carter, he concludes with, it's just cowboying. That's it. Rip tells Ryan that he did a good job in Texas, and that Wagon Boss should be on his resume. Beth travels to the Bosque Ranch in the south. If it seems familiar, it's because each Yellowstone end credits feature Bosque Ranch Productions as one of the production companies. In addition, it is a working ranch that is owned by both Travis Wheatley, Taylor Sheridan's character in the Yellowstone universe, and Sheridan himself. Travis is playing strip poker and ignoring the Brazilian buyers when Beth eventually catches up with him. He quickly gets up and running thanks to Beth, and he does quite well during the showcase. Sadie, Travis' girlfriend, tells Beth that it's all about his riding when she asks why she's with him. After Beth observes Travis at work, she begins to see the appeal for herself, particularly when he uses his maintenance staff to pretend to be competing bidders to sell the horses at the Dutton Ranch for $3 million. That's wise business, even if he is the worst. Then, thinking that what Travis did in the Bosque Arena would also benefit the Yellowstone, Beth invites him to return to Montana for the auction. Travis agrees to the task, but only after they play their own version of strip poker beforehand. Beth is aware that no one can put on a horse show like Travis. Travis believes Rip will find it amusing, but Beth is irritated and claims Rip will murder him. Even if Beth loses, he offers his assistance without any conditions and prevents her from stripping. When Rip returns to Montana, he begs Lloyd, who has spent 43 years at the Yellowstone, to stay and help rebuild it from the ground up. Rip is pushing to keep Carter and Lloyd around, even if the rest of the hands will be out of a job. "Thank you, boss," replies Lloyd. "It means more to me than you know." Rip responds, "I know what it means to you. That's why I asked." Before Christina, Jamie's baby mama and former campaign manager, takes him inside her home that evening, he sits outside. Christina inquires as to whether Sarah was accountable for John's passing, as their infant James is fast sleeping. After Jamie tells the facts, Christina questions why he didn't simply arrest her. Jamie lies to them both and claims it's because he was terrified of the people Sarah hired to murder his father. He is unsure of what to do in the wake of her murder. Christina informs Jamie, "The only reason I'm helping you is because we share a child," and gives him instructions to hold a news conference and lead the inquiry into the deaths of Sarah and John. Christina claims that Jamie can only escape this reasonably undamaged by denying the affair and accusing the people disseminating those rumors of spreading false information. "Honor your father's beliefs and proclaim his passion for Montana and its citizens. Declare his death to be a flagrant violation of the law, not merely a murder," Christina says. Jamie is advised by her to declare John's death the murder of the people of Montana's freedom. She also advises Jamie that he needs to link Sarah to the killing so that everyone thinks she did it by herself. Jamie departs with a new goal, his entire future on the line. When Beth gets home, she questions her husband about how Travis could possibly be his buddy. After Beth departed Montana, Rip reflects on his early years and describes how he and Travis initially connected. Travis stood at Rip's side and fought back when he was surrounded by cowboys while defending a former girlfriend. Even though he was a bloody mess, the Texan cowboy even walked back into the pub to get Rip's hat afterwards. At the auction the following day, Beth informs Monica that in order to pay off their debt, they will need to begin selling off portions of the property. In order to save them the suffering, Monica offers to handle the coroner's office call regarding their father's remains, which Casey butts in and informs his sister about. Beth tells Rip that following the auction, there will be a modest funeral. It's quite the party. Speaking of the auction, the Turnpike Troubadours and Oklahoma Band provide the music and everyone has a great time. The ranch personnel gather and discuss the future after the showing, including Jimmy and his wife Emily, who are visiting from the 4-6s. Although some, like Walker, see promise in the future, Ryan and Teeter both battle their sadness and find it difficult to completely move on after Colby's passing. In reference to mourning, Senator Linnell Perry confesses to Beth that she has attended more funerals on this ranch than anywhere else in the state. Since the senator had been one of her father's closest friends, Beth extends an invitation to Linnell to attend John's burial, even though it is supposed to be a private gathering. Casey and Monica dance together as the music keeps playing. Here, Casey offers a distinct strategy for preserving Yellowstone that, in his opinion, ensures its survival. When he tells Monica, "I know in my heart it's going to work, and I know it's the right thing." The episode switches to Rip and Beth as they see Teeter separate from the others, leaving us on the edge of our seats. Knowing that the men will just want to make things better, Beth decides to help the other woman deal with her grief by asking her out to a classy pub so they can socialize with some visitors. Teeter asks whether the agony will ever go after she and Beth frighten away several tourists at the bar. "There's a hole in your heart now," asked Beth. "There's a hole in mine, too." The auction resumes the following day, but not before pausing to pay tribute to Colby Mayfield and John Dutton. In front of everyone, Casey and Teeter display horses without riders while the auctioneer remarks Colby died exercising his freedom and John Dutton died protecting it. After that, unsure of what to do with all the horses gone, Carter asked Beth what they plan to do next. Telling him, "I guess you sleep in," Casey is caught up with by Beth, who mentions that the ranch made roughly $30 million, which might sustain them for another year. However, the topic of discussion soon changes. "You promised me something." Casey asks her, "Never spend a single penny of your earnings or dollars here. Not a single penny. That is not how it can be saved." Beth concurs, but before Casey leaves, he raises a business question, asking whether taxes are calculated on the item's value or just the price you paid for it. Beth seems to be catching on to Casey's covert scheme to save the Dutton Ranch after being asked the question. Just to make sure, Casey urges his sister to wait a little while before telling Monica that he thinks giving the Yellowstone is the only way to rescue it.